Let's start the conversation with this question. I'd like to get your own forecast for July inflation figures. Is your forecast in tandem with that of FDC, or you have something higher than what we have at the moment?
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Can you hear me clearly?
Loud and clear.
Okay, yeah. So my personal forecast, I believe that inflation is going to head higher more than that. I think that inflation might reach 24%. The headline inflation might reach 24.03% for July, and my prognosis on this. At the last inflation report that was released by the MBS, they stated the fact that the June inflation figures only showed up 2 weeks impact of the policies that was implemented, which was the subsidy removal and also the unification of the FX system. So we still have we are still going to see the impacts reflect more on the in the July inflation figures, and when you look at it, you see that food inflation, which has been the major driver of inflation over time, at least based on analysis, I've been seeing that the food inflation has been the major driver, has been the major driver of inflation over time, and also it has been the major contributor to inflation figures. It has been the highest contributor since March, since when they started recording it. Since March, it has averaged it was at 11.42% in March in terms of the highest contributors to headline inflation, and it was at 11.81% in June, and you can see that it has been increasing over time. And also when you now look at it, you see that transportation also, although it has reduced over time, was at 1.43% in terms of the largest contributors. In March, it was at 1.48%. For June, you realize that this particular figure, these two factors, they're like the major drivers of inflation, and they will be the major drivers of inflation for July, because food is very significant, and also we have a particular issue, which is the logistics effect of transporting food from a particular region of the country to another. So by the time you look at the fact that we are already in the rainy season currently, and also the logistics issue of transporting food from one region to the other, the transportation cost that is going to impose on food again, we are going to see that particular factor drive inflation upward significantly for July. So I see inflation going higher than that, at around 24.03% for July.
All right, good one there. As it stands now, it shows that inflation figure, it's not abating anytime soon. But then the big question now is, what are the fundamentals fueling all of these increases, from core inflation to rural inflation, urban inflation, food inflation as well, and all of that? What are the fundamentals responsible for this, despite the monetary and fiscal authority efforts to tame this monster called inflation? Your thoughts on this?
Okay, so yeah, thank you for that. Well, concerning that, the major thing you have to understand is, number one, when you look at the fact that Nigeria, we have this kind of a push of inflation. The major factors causing inflation is the increase in cost of production. Those are the major factors that have been causing inflation. And in terms of food inflation, we have logistic issues that, as I've stated before. We also have the issues with the fact that we have inadequate infrastructure to store food items, and also to make it available and to make it be easily distributed across the country. Those are the major factors that have been driving inflation upwards. So all these factors, when you consider them, they are structural issues that have been on ground for a very long time, and we've not really been able to get over it. So when they hike interest rates, one of the major parts where hiking of interest rates is going to work is when you have a situation in which people have a lot of cash on them that they have to spend, and there is limited investment in the market. That is when the hike in interest rate is going to curb inflation. However, we do not really have that right currently. What we are having is a situation that there is increase in the cost of production, there is food scarcity, and also there is issues transporting food from a particular region of the country to another, and then several other factors also. So these are the major factors driving inflation. So the hike in interest rate is not really tackling it, which is why we've seen the CBN hike interest rate over time. However, inflation has still been increasing over time. So we are seeing maybe people really have a lot of cash on their hand. The cash we have currently, the purchasing value is declining over time. So it is a major issue that we need to look at. It is a major factor that we need to consider when we are hiking interest rates, and which is one of the reasons why we have seen the central bank they are trying to like embark on some new policies just to like reduce the hike in inflation. So when you now consider these factors, you realize that if we want to like curb inflation, we need to look at the aspect of like making sure that we have a system in place that can tackle the major causes. We have a system in place that is going to make food available. The demand, the supply of food is going to like be enough for the whole economy. Also, the transportation cost, if we are able to like reduce it, the subsidy removal really like spiked up transportation costs significantly. And when you look at numbers, you realize that we have a lot of things to go around concerning transportation costs. Even for June, they have not really like stated the impact. You can see that the cost of bus journey intercity, it rose on a month-on-month basis by 42.1% and on a year-on-year basis by 55.2%. And within the city, it rose by 97.9% on a month-on-month basis and 120.6% on a year-on-year basis. So we realize the fact that transportation costs, all these factors are driving inflation, and if we don't find a way to like reduce that cost, inflation is still going to like skyrocket no matter how much we tend to like hike interest rates. So those are the major factors that we need to like look at and find a way to like rectify these issues.
Good one. Thank you for that insight. Now let's bring it home. Now let's come down to the ordinary man out there. Let's come to their level. Now they are watching and they are like inflation. Why are people talking about inflation? Now, can you give us a fresh perspective or more inside perspective as to how inflation affects the ordinary man outside there? What is the ripple effect of a continuous spike in inflation rate on the ordinary man out there?
Okay, so well, thank you for that. Well, this affects every one of us. Even me that I'm speaking, even you, it affects every one of us. And before I get into that point, I would like to state this, that inflation figures that we see out there, it is a general inflation. It's like an average, a basket. Each and every one of us, we have our own personal inflation. For example, let me break it down like this. There are some particular goods that you buy. There are some food items that you buy that are, let's say, they are peculiar to you. So any increase in those things that you buy, the food items that you buy, any increase there is going to affect you personally in a different way. And if there is someone that is buying another kind of food item or clothing, or he has different kind of like expenses that is looking at, any increase in the its expenses, the food items he buys, the clothing items, and some other things that he buys, anything that increases the price of those items is going to affect him in a different way. So inflation is not really generic as we see it. It can be personal. However, looking at the general rise in the prices of food items now, when you look at it, what it's just saying is this, that if you have 100, you are earning 100,000 naira, and inflation is at approximately 23%. That means that the value of the 100,000 naira you are earning is declining by 23%. So you are left with 77,000 naira. So the 100,000 naira is really, in real terms, is 77,000 naira. So you just imagine that the amount of things that you can buy is not. You can't buy something worth of 100,000. Your total expenses, you can only buy something of 77,000 naira, and that's how it affects us. So it means that your value, the value of the cash that you have currently, the purchasing power, it has reduced significantly by 23%. So this is how it affects every one of us. Now imagine someone that is earning lower. Imagine someone that his own inflation is even higher than the general inflation. So it's really going to affect the pulse of people. And you will now see that the even someone that will have a situation. Let me put it like this: we are going to have a situation that people, the gap between the rich and the poor is going to like let's say shrink, because there are some people that are considered rich before that by the time inflation hit them hard, they are not as rich as they think they are before. So these are the major factors that are really like we need to consider. This is how it affects us. So the higher the inflation, just know that the higher the poverty level will be in the country, and that is it's also going to show that the lower the purchasing value of your currency is going to be. That's just it in the simple terms.